All right, good evening. It is 5 o'clock on July 15th, 2025. This meeting of the Board of Water Commissioners is called to order. A note for the record, this meeting is being held in person and or remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Act of 2025 and all other applicable laws temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting law. If any participant wishes to record this meeting, please notify the chair at the start of the meeting in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20F, so that the chair may inform all other Julie Straley, Water Commissioners. Before we start the discussion this evening, I did want to note that I want to take a quick minute just to discuss tonight's meeting. I want to note for the record that, we are as frustrated as everyone else is about the frequency of discolored water. I certainly know it's stressful when someone experiences discolored water in their household. Prevents individuals from washing clothes, cooking, drinking, showering, performing other household tasks. I know this because it's occurred at my residence a few times. I think it's important to note a few things. First, the water system was neglected for years when it was acquired, and some of the lines that provide service are very old, some even 100 years old. This was one of the reasons that prompted our community to buy the water company in the first place. Secondly, as I anticipate we'll hear at this meeting, a variety of factors contribute to water main breaks: aged lines and old valves, water pressure, and temperature extremes, both hot and cold temperatures. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to implement a plan to mitigate the frequency of discolored water. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that after tonight's meeting that there will no longer be water main breaks. Unfortunately, there will be. My goal, which I believe is shared by my colleagues, is to do everything we can to make improvements. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our water superintendent, Russ Tierney. He also has with him Mike.
So, Bill, we put together a small PowerPoint presentation, and I want to go through it as soon as it decides to come up.
Can I get it closer?
Sure. Never been accused of not being able to be heard. So, what we're going to look at today is potential causes and perceptions about the water mains and the causes for water main breaks, the types of leaks that can occur in the water system, the history of water main breaks throughout the past 10 years. Maybe they're going to 12, and then future plans to mitigate what is going on with the water mains and things like that. What makes up our water system? This is basically just a sketch of a water system. Your basic water system is your water treatment plant coming from your sources. You have a reservoir that holds the water, which is our tanks. Then we have a complete distribution system that is throughout all three towns that we service. Then from there, from the distribution system, it goes to service lines, which goes to each house, or fire hydrants, which is for fire protection. Potential causes and perceptions. Failures in the distribution system, water mains, services, hydrants, and or gate valves are part of operating a water system, especially one this size. The Ware River water system maintains over 200 miles of pipeline, 12,500 service connections, 1,250 fire hydrants, and over 3,000 gate valves. Basically, this is a small snippet of the shipyard and what is just in the shipyard for us to take care of. Cities and towns across America are dealing with the water infrastructure issue due to age, material type, and in some areas, weather. The average number of annual water main breaks per 100 miles of pipe is 11 to 27. This is through a bunch of different resources that I found. The 11's on the low side, which are milder areas. The 27's on the high side, which is New England and in the colder weather areas. The average, in New England, that number is higher, like I said, because of the weather changes and have an impact on our underground assets. This is the age of our infrastructure. So the green is 64% of the mains in the Ware River water system are greater than 50 years old. When we did the master plan, we looked at every pipe over 50 years old, because by the time we replace stuff that's 75 years and older, it'll be time to replace stuff that's 50 years and older. So we decided as a group to go and look at everything that's greater than 50 years old. Discolored water is often a result of water main breaks, service leaks, and on occasion planned system maintenance. Ongoing effective system maintenance is key in reducing the extent of discolored water during breaks and leaks. So one of the things I looked at was, we have a water main break, and people know about it. But people know about it a lot of times because the water around their area is getting discolored. A lot of times, we could have a break. We had one last week that no one even knew about because it was an area that did not disrupt the water system. It was a small leak. And no one even knew we were out there because of the fact that it did not make all the water in the area discolored. So that's why we want to start tracking where we're getting most of our calls and things like that, which I'll talk about in our plans. If you have a water main break up in this corner of this map, sometimes a house down in this corner of this map gets discolored water. That's what we're trying to mitigate and eliminate. Also, our improved communications protocol is contributing to perception that the number of water main breaks has increased over time. 5 years ago, we did not put out on Facebook and things that we had a water main break. We just had one. We went and fixed it, and that was it. We would call the people that are immediately affected by it. They would know about it, but everyone around them would not. But we do think it is important to utilize these things. So we utilize our notification system, Facebook, websites, other media outlets, and additional social media platforms in getting the needed information to our customers immediately. But it also is reaching customers that are not in the affected break area, and in the past, these customers may have never been aware of these situations. I am noticing in some cases, there are people from out of town that are chiming in and saying things that I don't think they really know about. But again, we do feel that using Facebook, using all these things are important to our customers, so we'll take that extra backlash if that's what happens. What can cause water main breaks? Changes in temperature, thermal expansion, freezing and thawing. Over the wintertime, as the ground frost deepens, it can move pipes that are shallow, and then when it starts to thaw, these pipes will move and they'll break. And that has a lot to do with age and material. Ground movement, settlement, vibration from construction, soil erosion, and destabilization. In some areas where we've done construction and road construction, we're going to replace the water mains because after you tear up the road, then start compacting the road again, the older mains are going to crack or something's going to happen to them. This is a really tough thing to do because sometimes we have to take the chance and not do that road depending on where we are with our capital work and everything else. And then age and pipe material and corrosion. This is a couple pictures of pipe that have been tuberculated. On the right-hand side is a pipe that's heavily tuberculated. That what did come from our water system. The one on left is more corrosion. Corrosion is not as common these days because we use chemicals to increase the pH in the water system, which then mitigates the corrosion effects. But you also got to remember some of these pipes are 100 years old, so prior to using corrosion control, there was nothing being put in the water. So they had, effect already with them. Pressure changes. As the pressure changes within the system, it can cause water hammer, which is the next picture. And then what happens is the water hammer will then put stress on the pipe. If the pipe's aged or in a area that can't absorb all that extra water hammer, the pipe will crack. And then most importantly is high water demand. So if we're fighting a fire and we have irrigation going on and we're trying to pump water out of the plant to keep up with the fire, it's going to cause water hammer. Water's going to want to go to that fire. We're trying to push water to the other side of town. They're going to meet somewhere in the middle and cause a water hammer. Now again, as the system's designed and as things are put in place, water hammer can be absorbed by the system, but there are cases where the water hammer could reach a dead end or something like that and pop the pipe. Types of leaks. We get leaks on water mains, which are our larger diameter pipes in the water system, typically greater than 2 inch or larger, and are used as a transmission line to distribute water throughout the system and provide fire protection. We get water service leaks. These are typically smaller pipes in our system, less than 2 inches, and provide water to individual residents and businesses. There are services that can be larger. It's in very rare cases for larger buildings, but again, most of our water services are less than 2 inch in diameter. We can have hydrants leak. Hydrants over time, the bottom of the shoe at the very bottom where they meet, sometimes the bolts can become corroded and they'll start to leak there. They can also leak at the valve that's connected to the water main over time. So these are things that when we inspect the hydrant, we can notice and then we can replace those fire hydrants. And then valves. Older valves can leak, especially from the top. On the top of the valve is packing. As you work those valves, sometimes that packing will start leaking. and sometimes it just will not stop leaking. So that's why sometimes you'll see us work valves. 3 days later, people will be calling up saying there's a leak in the street, but it's just a valve leaking. And sometimes they'll reset themselves. It'll start to reset itself, and then it'll stop leaking, but other times it will not. So those are the 4 major types of leaks we get. So this is a graph on water main breaks, and I can't see my notes, why? That's okay, you can read it. So prior to the town purchasing the water system, the average was 32.7 main breaks per year. I know this because I have all the information that was handed over to us by Aquarian. They kept detailed records of every main break that was done, and we continue to do that as now. Currently, our annual average post-ownership is 21.3. So we are definitely decreasing the number of main breaks, but again, there are years that you have more. If you look at 2015, there was 41 water main breaks in the system. We are currently running at about 27 this year, so we got our fingers crossed we won't hit the 41, but again, it's been a bad year, and we realize that. So what are we going to do going forward? But first, I'm going to show you about the 100. So United States and AWWA and the Association for Civil Engineers bases water main breaks per 100 miles of pipe. We have 200 miles of pipe in the system. Our average per year per 100 miles is 10.7 over the past 6 years post-ownership. Prior to that, it was 16.3, which again is not a big number. It's not close to the 19 annual average. So right now, after taking everything into consideration, I met the 11 to 27 in the middle, and we're staying with 19 as our benchmark. AWWA does have a 14 benchmark for systems, and we're still below that since post-ownership. So future plans. So during the past 4 years, and including this year, we have completed capital work that included replacing 23,500 linear feet of water main. 12,745 of that replacement line was recommendations directly from our master plan. We added 6,000 linear feet to create loops and additional service areas, and we've installed 84 additional fire hydrants and added 18 new gate valves. We also have approved in the design phases and permitting currently is the new Strawberry Hill Strawberry Hill tank. What that's going to do with the system, and we did do a presentation for both the water commissioners and the Hull Select Board, it's going to stabilize the pressure. Currently, we push water from 900 Main Street to the Turkey Hill tank, which then travels down to Hull. By eliminating the tank in Hull, it caused a unstable pressure. You can go down to Hull and the pressure will go from 40 pounds to 60 pounds, back to 30, and then up to 70. And that's all from movement through the hydraulics of the system. When we first started looking at the tank, our consultant came to me and said, we don't want to design the tank, we want to do a hydraulic model and redo it to make sure it's right. We spent an entire year gathering information and running a new hydraulic model for the system and realized that just throwing up a tank in Hull was not the answer, that we had to create a whole separate pressure zone to stabilize the pressures in the system. So we will have a third pressure zone when we do this tank. That's why we need a pump station at Kilby Street in Hingham. Other future plan, I don't know what happened to the slide, I'm sorry. Hold on. I don't know what happened. It's me doing. I'm going to go back to that slide. Okay. No, don't do it. Main Street's one, I don't know what happened to the slide, but I apologize. Main Street, this just came about in the past couple of weeks. I'm looking at replacing 6,000 linear feet of 12-inch ductile iron main. Looking at October of 2026 to start designing and permitting that. The project is in the beginning phases of discussion, and we may need to be done in 2 phases depending on other projects and funding. I gotta go back more. Sorry. Okay, got it. Next one, the Route 3A Rotary and Summer Street project. This started out as the state was going to redo the Rotary. They then expanded that to North Street, then they expanded that to Rockland Street, and now they've expanded it all the way to Otis Street. So what we're looking at right now is designing and replacing 9,600 linear feet of 12-inch ductile line water main. October of 2025, design and permitting. December of 2025, we're going to bid and award it. January of 2026, pre-construction meetings. In February, March of 2026 is construction, start construction. After that, we're looking at Manomet and Samoset Ave. The town of Hull wants to repave both those roads, full depth reconstruction. They're both a mile long with a little more, so it's 11,200 linear feet of 8-inch ductile iron water main. We did look at upsizing that to 12, but because those two streets run parallel, the hydraulic model said that we didn't have to go to 12 because the two streets will handle plus at Nantasket Ave. Still not 100% not going to do 12, but that's where we're headed with the 8-inch for right now. June of 2026, design and permitting, August of 26, bid and award, September of 26, pre-construction, and then February, March of 27 for construction. Please be aware, some of these timelines might move up or down depending on what happens on these roads, or if we somehow, have the funding to do them earlier, we will. The last one was Main Street, like I spoke about. If the Samoset and Manomet projects for full depth reconstruction get pushed off another year, I'll look back at Main Street and may do Main Street before we do that. But currently, it's going to go 3A, Samoset, Manomet, and then Main Street. I'm going to turn this over to Mike. Mike Lee, he works for Veolia, and Mike's going to discuss some of the flushing and other things we're going to start doing over the next 5 years that they're here.
All right, thank you, Russell. All right, conventional flushing. Kind of pulls water in from every direction. And aside from using a lot more water than unidirectional flushing, it doesn't produce a high enough velocity to clean the pipes, to efficiently scour and clean the pipe walls. Conventional flushing is successful in systems with less buildup, tuberculation, as you can see in that pipe on the left. But unfortunately, with the age of our system and the lack of previous maintenance, conventional flushing just isn't going to benefit us. All right. So UDF, unidirectional flushing. Think of it as a one-way traffic lane in your water distribution system. We close predetermined valves in the system that redirects the water to increase velocity in the mains and it performs a more comprehensive and efficient scouring of the main. But in order to perform UDF, we must inspect and ensure that all valves are working properly, right? Because we're operating these valves, shutting them to get this water to go in a one-way direction that we need to increase the velocity. Without all the valves working properly, it's just not going to work. It's not going to be effective. So we're working on this currently on one of the UDF areas in the system. So we'll be ready in the fall. But the lack of system maintenance in the past is showing us that we have a lot of valves that need to be repaired or replaced before we start the program. So main break tracking and analysis. So what we're going to do is use the GIS mapping that we have to monitor our main breaks. A Veolia GIS technician will plot all the main break locations on the map, which will allow us to easily take a look and pick out our problem areas. We'll see these clusters of breaks, and then we can work with our consultants to prioritize replacement. We're also looking at, I've got a meeting later this week, where we're going to begin to utilize an asset management software called Voda AI. It's used in other Veolia systems and can assist in the planning of infrastructure, proactive maintenance, and because as we all know, reactive maintenance is very costly. It uses AI to predict the likelihood of failure in areas by analyzing historical data, environmental factors, and pipe conditions.
I just want to add in one thing on this map that I forgot to talk to Mike about. In that area that we circled, this is main breaks. That's Downer Ave, Plantersfield Lane. So if you see all the dots in that circle, that's why when we were talking about replacing mains, we went straight to that area because there was several main breaks. Just Downer Ave alone, since we've been here, we've had 5 main breaks. So that's why we went and replaced Downer Ave when we did. Even though in our master plan, it was further down in the phases, but then the need of main breaks kind of pushed that schedule up.
So what we found out is there were pressure recording vaults in the system. At one point, somebody was recording the pressures throughout the system. We believe there are 10 to 12 vaults. 8 of them have already been identified. and we intend to put permanent data recorders in those vaults. So we can monitor system pressure, see if there's any transient pressure spikes, 24/7, all at 365. But in the interim, because that's going to take a while, right? We've identified these vaults, but we've got to research the equipment we're going to put in them, and it's going to be tied into SCADA. It's a little bit of time consuming there. So in the interim, we're going to deploy hydrant-mounted pressure data loggers. You can see on the right, very simple units. We just mount them on the hydrant outlets. When what we'll do is we'll use that GIS mapping and target those areas where we're having the problems, right? The problem areas with a lot of breaks, and see if we have anything going on as far as transient pressures.
We are developing an RFQ right now for the pressure sensors. We're going to put that out. I'm working with David. We're going to put that out on the street to get some response from companies that do these monitoring systems in the system. So I'll have that done within the next 2 weeks with the procurement.
Or valve inspection and replacement program. Distribution system gate valves are key to the system's hydraulics. And as we all know in the past, the focus on these things was not a priority. That's why we're having the issues we are. Closed valves can have a negative impact on the direction of flow, negative impact on overall water quality, to tell you the truth. It basically creates a dead end in the system that contributes to discolored water and water hammer, which again leads to more main breaks. And our goal is, aside from our in-house crews, is to allocate additional resources to help with the inspection and identification of broken valves, as well as repairing and replacing them. That was my last slide, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Good. Now we want to talk about drought status and conservation measures. I know right now we were in a level 2 water ban. It was necessary due to the fact that our tanks were losing too much ground overnight, and we can only put so much water out of the treatment plant. One of the misconceptions right now is that we don't have enough water. We have plenty of water in our well fields, but we can't pull more than X amount of gallons out of those well fields at a time and get it to the plant. There's transmission lines from each well that come down Main Street or come up from Free Street that head to the plant. We can only pull so much. There's still water there, but we can only pull so much to get to the plant. So we're looking at the raw water lines right now. Our water sources and capacity are in very good shape. Several factors contribute to the decision when we determine what type of conservation measures we implement. One factor is storage capacity, not overall system capacity. If residents do not follow our recommended or mandatory water conservation measures, it can make it difficult for our plant to recover the tank elevations to ensure proper fire protection. In other words, we just can't keep up with it. Water storage tanks are not for lawn watering, they're for fire protection. That's what they're built for. And they're built for also like high demand times. But again, if everybody's watering every day, the high demand time that's usual normal goes through the roof. Our current water conservation restrictions are being revised to match the state's drought status. Last year, the Mass DEP and the Drinking Water Program said that all registered water systems must start following the drought status. So currently there's 5 levels of drought status in the state, and I'm going to go over those real quick just so everybody knows what they are. If customers comply with our water conservation restriction plan and in regards to annual restrictions from April through October, our system can maintain tank levels. Too many residents are watering every day. So with the state, there's 5 levels. Level 0 is a normal, no restrictions. Level 1 is mild drought. Now, if the southeast region goes into a level 1, even if we have plenty of water and we can keep pumping as much as we want, we have to follow the level 1 restrictions the state has. It doesn't matter if we say, oh no, we're all set, we have plenty of water. They are now requiring water systems with registrations to follow their drought status. So even if the entire region, the southeast region, went into a critical drought, which means no outside watering, even if we have the capacity to let people water, we have to put it out that they can't water because the state is mandating it so that the rest of the region can try to recuperate from not having enough water. So basically, they're telling us when and what restrictions we have to put on watering. I'm going to have this done before the end of this summer. It'll go in front of the board for approval on what the fines will be and all those things when it related to these, and we will start implementing them next year. We did all get a 1-year reprise from the state so that we can put these all together. The bottom line is, for a healthy lawn, you only need 1 to 1.5 inches of water per week, distributed over 2 to 3 days. So watering your lawn every single day is basically overwatering your lawn. Watering deeply and less frequently encourages strong root growth and making your lawn more resilient. So again, there's no need to water your grass every single day, 2 to 3 days a week. If you look anywhere, research anywhere in the internet, it'll tell to start April of 2026. This will combine electric, water, and Hingham sewer into one monthly bill. After careful consideration and meetings with all stakeholders, it was decided to transition both customer service and billing at the same time, and we all decided it was in the best interest of the water system to postpone it 1 year. So effectively, right now, on July 1st of 2026, the town of Hingham will take over billing and customer service from Veolia, and then start to do that from HMLP. So we're really asking customers to please stop calling HMLP because they are not involved in our operations every day. And we're kind of cluttering up their phones a little bit when we have a main break. But we are looking at better ways to quickly get information out to everybody so you don't have to call customer service. And that's the end, and any questions?
All right. All right, Russ, Mike, thanks very much. I'm going to start off with a couple questions. So, Russ, can you tell us again what water hammer is and how that causes the
Yeah,
disruption?
so basically water hammer is when the water's traveling through the system. So what can happen is the force will then put more stress on the main, and the main will break. So if we have a few closed valves in the system that we have not found yet, or the 3,000 that we have, this can be a factor in these situations where mains are breaking. So again, if we start clustering the water main breaks, we can then go through that area quickly with the checking all the valves and then go from there. We will start with a methodical valve and program where we'll start in areas and just do them. But again, like we saw a few main breaks in the past 6 months, so we're going to kind of focus on those areas over the next couple of months to get those checked to make sure all the valves are open.
Okay. The pump station on Kilby Street, I know we've done our necessary approvals.
Yep.
What's the status of that?
The status of that is both Concom and zoning have approved it. We do have our regular, we have our Concom conditions, which is fine. We're working on doing some drilling next month on both the Strawberry Hill site and Kilby Street to make sure the soils are good. And then we'll continue with the final design, and then final building permits should be going in September, I think. So applying for building permits here in Hingham. And simultaneously applying for permits in Hull.
And you mentioned that's going to help with the water pressure issue, having that.
What it does is stabilizes it.
Okay.
There won't be big fluctuations. It'll make it stable, because then town of Hull will be pressurized from the new tank. And it'll be almost, I call it the middle, but I get arguments every once in a while, but say the middle of Hull so that it distributes evenly.
Okay. And the Main Street Improvement Project, is that going to run the entire length of Main Street from Queen Anne's Corner down to downtown?
No, so right now I'm looking at the Kilby Street, why I keep saying Kilby Street, because I like the pump station. Where the cleaners is, Short Street, Middle Street, that right there, starting there to downtown.
Okay.
That's where we've had the 3 breaks in that stretch.
You mean from like the common area down?
Yeah, the common.
Yeah, okay, got it, clean.
Plus, there's that new rotary everyone's talking about, so we don't,
Yeah,
I know,
we're not talking about it.
I know it's a hot
We're not
topic, I don't want to talk
talking
about it, but again,
That hasn't been approved.
that's fine. So I won't go all the way there if I don't have to. If some of these things don't happen, we'll probably start going, that's why I said it might be done in 2 phases. I may go to Water Street, then from Water Street
Okay.
up to,
Yeah. And 2 more questions. So do you possess, Mike, do you possess the technology to identify where these valves are and the age and condition of these valves, because it seemed like the valves are a big part of the problem. And I mean, Russ mentioned, he estimated there were 3,000 valves out there that the previous owner didn't tell us about where the location of these valves are.
No.
We're finding
Okay,
that,
so.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know what you're saying. The valves, we're all set, we have a map, but it's the pressure vaults. We didn't know about the pressure vaults. We actually stumbled across one, and then we had a conversation with somebody. The next thing you know, we all started looking on the road to see if we could find manholes that said water on them. So we've actually, like in the past 2 months, we found 8 out of what they said was 12. But the valves in the system, there's no way to tell how they're operating unless you go put your hands on them.
Okay.
That's what,
and lastly,
sorry.
I know you kind of gave us an overview of what the capital improvement plan is going to consist of, but Russ, I'd like to kind of like continue to get updates from you, more granular, like, hey, we did this week. We replaced this many valves in Hall, we replaced this line of pipe in Hingham, just to get more updates on where we're going with it, so that our residents know about the efforts being taken, the capital improvements that are occurring. So, and maybe we can, I know we talk at least once a month, maybe we can do it twice a month, but we can talk about that offline.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. With that, I'll turn it over to Julie.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Russ, and thanks, Mike, for coming tonight. And I would just reiterate what Bill began with at the beginning of our meeting, that it's important that we address our issues, especially the brown water, and we're going to stay on top of this issue and just keep working on good communication, transparency, and doing the work that's required. And you had an excellent presentation. You're laying out all the work that will need to be done to correct the problems, and it's just keeping at it. So thank you. Just a couple questions. Back to Main Street, how old would you say the pipes are from the cleaners down to downtown?
I pulled up 80, but and I'm not making an excuse, but the difficult part with the records we have from the previous owners is they list all the pipe and the ages, but they don't technically say exactly where it is. So we have to kind of look at it, interpret, okay, that's 12, that's 10. This looks like it's between here and here, but I think it's 80 years old.
Okay.
It is cast iron, so it's past its useful life age, so.
Okay, great. And I'm very interested in the pursuing of the unidirectional flushing program, so thank you for moving on and doing the work on the valves to make that happen so that we can keep flushing out the sediment in the pipes. And finally, I just would like to note that, we have a Citizens Advisory Board, the CAB, and I just would like to see that committee activated more for these times that we're in, where we could have that committee meet more frequently. And, they're there to liaise with residents, to hear their concerns and to work with you, but also turning it around and educating people on what the water system is doing to fix these issues. So that's what I'd like to see.
I do have
going
a call,
forward.
but Steve is on sabbatical and doing a couple things, so I did talk to him on Saturday,
Yep.
real quick via text, and when he gets back, we're gonna work on getting a meeting together.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Liz, any questions?
Yes, well, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the presentation. It's always helpful, I think, to set expectations, provide information and education, and provide those data points. Anecdotally, it feels like there are a lot of breaks, and I've experienced groundwater myself, so I understand the frustration. But it's a helpful reminder to have those data points. With that being said, obviously, we want to make steps to improve the water system. The clusters of breaks that you're talking about, can you just explain what you think the causes are? Like how? I
think it's like some things, right? Not one thing points at what causes, so there's multiple things. And multiple things are, where demand in the summertime is really high. If we have closed valves in those areas, then we're going to cause additional stress on the pipe with water hammer and the ability to not absorb any pressure fluctuations and the age of the pipe. So it's not always just the age, because we have 100-year-old cast iron that never breaks. So that's why by clustering it, we're seeing which cast iron mains might be more stressed than others in the system. I guess that's the easiest way to put it.
Right.
We do have cast iron in some areas that haven't broken in 20 years.
Okay.
So it all depends on that particular pipe
Okay.
and what that area is bringing. That's why, again, we looked at the couple that we've done. Right now, Veolia is adding in 2014 to 2020 breaks that we got together and gave to them. So now we'll get a good 12-year picture of everything that's been going on for the past 12 years. Now, our consultant did look at that when they did the master plan. They did the same thing we're doing here, it's just not as pictorial. And I can tell you, most of the mains that we're looking at are in that plan. Again, the 3A project now has kind of jumped up, so we're gonna have to look at, do we have to find, or take more money out, do more loans for more capital work? Basically, if the state wants to do Route 3A, we have to do it, it's like Atlantic Ave. Atlantic Ave was on my schedule 5 years from now, but because the state wanted to do Atlantic Ave, we did it. The state wants to do 3A now, we have to do it. So I'm gonna have to start treating these as separate projects, I would say, not capital projects, capital plan projects.
Right.
Master plan projects.
Right.
That's what I'm looking at now.
Okay, so I appreciate what you're saying, and I think it's helpful to try to identify those patterns, right, is what we're talking about. As far as the capital work and the capital improvement plan, do you feel like we need to expedite that to resolve some of these issues?
I think our first step is to the valves. I really think the valves are a big issue. Again, we spent a lot of time looking at all the valves for the flushing program last spring. Where are we now? Spring. We did it for the spring. When we were done checking all the valves, we found 17 of them that not all were all broken, but were either frozen closed, frozen open. We worked them. We got that down to about 12. We're finalizing the list now of ones that have to be replaced. We found maybe half a dozen rounded operating nuts, which means the nut on the top that you turn, you can't get the wrench on to turn it. So we replaced those, which is not a hard fix. That's a company actually comes in and does it without excavation. So we're looking at that. So Mike and I and everybody that's here are working on that final list, and I hopefully will have it next week.
Okay.
And then we're gonna start attacking those valves that we have. But I think we have to really focus on the valves.
Okay,
Because if the valves don't work and we're not being able to control the water, or the water's not moving in the right direction, again, we found a valve broken closed on Main Street on that last Main Street break because we went to shut the side street and found out it was already shut. It was broken closed. So that's a valve that should have been addressed years ago. So again, we now have that on our list to do.
okay. And the VODA system that you mentioned, Mike, will that help with the valves?
Well, not with the valves. That'll help with identifying the main breaks and the likelihood of failures in certain areas.
Okay, so do you, I know you mentioned AI, I mean, do you put in like our patterns, like our data points
So
to
what
have
there was
predictive
Yep.
technology?
We'll plug in all those main breaks, you know, along with the type of material they found, the type of break, and if you have that issue here, but I have experienced that in other systems.
Okay, okay, that's helpful, thank you. And so the UDF process, when is that gonna, I know you have to check the valves first, so what is the projected
So
time?
we are having a conversation about that now. The smallest area in this system is the high service. And we're gonna probably jump on those valves in the next 2 weeks to see how they are, because we wanna make sure that the UDF goes without a lot of issues. If we start operating valves in the main side and down, which is older, we are convinced we're gonna have other issues, because again, if you close valves with UDF and then there's a closed valve that you don't have to check for the UDF, suddenly you could have no water.
Right.
So it's things like that that contribute to issues when you run a UDF program. There could be, I mean, I can't tell you how many valves might be closed in the system, so that's why we have to get, and the only way to check valves is you have to put your hands on them. And that's what we're looking at right now, bringing in additional resources to get our hands on those valves.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. All right, before we open up to public comment, I do want to go over the guidelines that the board has adopted for public comment. Speakers are asked to state their name and address before speaking and will be afforded 2 minutes for any comments or concerns. Time may be extended at the discretion of the chair. While the board recognizes that it cannot regulate the content of remarks, the chair requests that residents not engage in personalities. So with that, we will open up to public comment.
Sorry, I don't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt you.
Yep.
Mike does want to say something.
Go ahead, you wanna add
Tom and I
something?
met last week, and he would like to say something.
If I could just address the board for a minute.
Yeah,
So I met with Russell and Tom Mayo last week to speak with them about some concerns Tom had in regards to a main break at Main Street in Elm on July 2nd. And I just want to assure the board that Veolia is committed to efficiently and effectively serve the customers of the Ware River water system. From the top down, Veolia is invested in our commitment to making the system run better today and into the future. Veolia has recently renewed its obligation to serve this community, and we will collaborate with Ware River Water System leadership to review and execute any work that needs to be done within the system. Just wanted to.
Great. Well, we appreciate that, and want you to know, Russ knows this, but Mike, you know this as well, that the three of us, whatever resources we can provide to help you, financial, whatever, we will give you those resources. We want to see this succeed, we want to see it improve, and we are, standing by to help any way we can. That's why we're having this meeting, actually.
We appreciate
So
it.
thank you for that, I appreciate it. All right, we'll start with public comment in the room. Mr. Wetzel, go up to the mic, name and address, please.
Susan Wetzel, 239 High Street. Had a couple of questions. First of all, and I don't think this was covered, but the way that the Ware River water system is organized and who the employees are, I hear a lot of comments about consultants. I'm not exactly sure what Veolia's role is, although I've dealt with them extensively. So if someone could just clarify for me, and then I'll have my question. I have additional questions,
Sure.
but I'd like that clarified. So I know you're the Water Board Commissioners, right? And I know Russell Tierney is somewhere in the lineup, and Veolia, that's another subject. So could someone help?
So that's a great question, actually. So
Yeah.
I guess the question is, how is this system tasked organized in terms of leadership? And Russ, you want to explain that?
So the way right now the organization is originally set up is the Board of Water Commissioners sits above myself. I'm the managing director and superintendent of the water system, and I work for the town of Hingham. Then we contract operation to Veolia. Veolia runs the distribution, operates and maintains the distribution system and the water treatment facility. Under Mike, who's then the regional manager for Veolia, is a project manager who is Darren Dirth, and then under him is Joshua, who's an assistant project manager, and then all the employees are Veolia employees.
So the people that come out that I speak with on High Street, which I do frequently when they come out, who do they work for?
Veolia.
They work for Veolia?
Correct.
Okay. So their manager is Mike?
Darren Dirth is the project manager in Hingham. Mike runs multiple projects.
So who's Darren's manager?
Mike.
I am.
Right. So ultimately, it comes up to you. Okay. So that helps clarify. So we don't have any employees that are working on the water. It's
Just one.
just you.
Well, two. Sorry, Brian. Brian
Brian.
Peckinpah is the assistant
Okay.
The
superintendent.
assistant.
So they represent the town. Everybody else is contracted out through Veolia. Okay, which is very different than Hingham Municipal Light Plant. Okay, so this isn't an apple-to-apple comparison at all. So I have dealt with Veolia since we owned the water company and have had interesting interactions with them, none of which I will say were pleasurable. So I'm going to leave it at that. So this has been going on. We've had them from the beginning? Okay. So
It was a
No, it
different
was not,
company
yeah.
at first.
Correct.
how long?
So it was not, it hasn't been Veolia the entire time. It was Suez, and then it became.
Veolia.
Veolia.
Veolia purchased.
Yeah, so we
Suez.
started with Suez, Veolia
Okay.
purchased Suez.
Okay, so just to back up on some of the comments is the customer service has been unacceptable since the beginning, or at least since Veolia's been in charge. And I'm a longtime resident, 45 years in Hingham, so I have a level of expectation, which maybe I shouldn't have, but I have, living in this town, and it has not been met. So that's a concern of mine. And promises don't mean anything when you have multiple conversations with a company over multiple years and you don't see improvement. Okay. I have had a lot of brown water. I've had no water, like a lot of people here in town. That's not the issue at hand here, except for a couple of minor things. The issue is not being able to get someone to respond to the kind of questions that come up as a customer. That's of the concern that I have. And the times that I've been without water have never been convenient. But I keep water in my house now, so I never will be without again, I hope, for very long. But the question I have is, the discussion came up about the valves and the gates, right? Did I have that right?
Yes.
Valves and gates. So I've had problems in front of my house for about 3 years. And I used to have phone calls that I made to Viola and explain to them what was going on, and someone would come out and they'd do whatever they do and they'd go back. Anyway, I had standing water in front of my house, and if you drive by 239 High Street, you'll see where there's an indentation in the street where the water problem was known, was not corrected properly for quite a while. I don't know, like maybe 3 years. We knew we had it because people used to come by and they'd say, "What's leaking on I Street?" And I'd make another phone call. So that's a long time problem that never got resolved. Now, is it resolved now? I don't know. So that's one concern. The other concern was that they keep saying that we're in a drought, and I just heard tonight we're not in a drought. That's what Russell said. We're not in a drought. We have adequate water. It's not lack of water. I got 5.5 inches, so I was wondering if we were out of a drought. But I think that accurately telling the public what we have would be helpful, because people see it rain 5.5 inches, they figure that it's not a drought. What's the problem? And so candid conversations with people that want to know would be very helpful. And as far as Veolia is concerned, I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to beleaguer what I have to say, so thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room have any comments or questions? Mr. Buckley, go ahead. State name and address, sir.
Hi there. My name's Henry Buckley. I live at 235 Lincoln Street. Thanks for meeting. I know you have multiple meetings today. I just have a quick question as an appointed member of the Hingham Beautification Commission. Now, now a lot of what we do is manage traffic islands, stuff like that, and we're running a little bit behind. Some of the traffic islands aren't looking so great, but we don't want to water past the restriction. Considering that a level 2 restriction is in place, we're wondering what further watering we'll be allowed to do. I mean, I think the DPW waters our islands pretty frequently, but are they doing it to the limit, or could we go past that?
DPW is watering, they're watering their islands? Is that what you're saying to me?
I believe so. Yeah.
I mean, I'll talk to them tomorrow, but we are looking at lifting the level 2. I don't want to say when, because I don't want people to start doing it now. But we are looking at, so what I'm doing is revising. So we have watering restrictions in place right now, and we have a whole section in the regs that talk about watering restrictions. We're looking at 3-day-a-week watering for odd and 3-day-a-week watering for even. All we're asking is that residents adhere to it, because if they don't, we'll go right back to where we were.
Right.
We sat in meetings for 3 days prior to doing the level 2 water ban saying, we have the water, but you don't need to water every single day. And we have annual restrictions, which people don't follow. So the basic is, if you follow those restrictions that we set in place, we will have no issues. You can do hand watering.
Yeah, I'm sure those meetings aren't easy, so I
understand that, but hand watering is okay right now. Level 2 says
Great.
no hand watering, but I'm telling you right now, we can go to hand watering.
Okay, that's exactly.
Yeah, so if you bring a bucket of water for the island, you
Yeah,
can.
that's right. And we've had, I live on Lincoln Street on 3A, we've had
Yeah.
some work done outside the house, and the professionalism of, I don't know if it's sewer water, but the employees, the project
sewer, yeah.
managers. It's sewer?
Yes.
Well.
It falls under
Their
me anyway, so
professionalism,
thank you.
I mean-
It falls under me, so thank you.
Without peer, they're wonderful.
They are good.
They've been
Oh,
very
thank you.
easy about letting us get through, including the detail officers. They've been very, very good to us.
Thank you.
You've made something difficult very easy, and I appreciate this meeting. Well, thank you very much. You answered my questions.
problem.
Henry, thank you very much. I see that Clark Frazier has his hand up online. Clark, go ahead.
Okay, Clark Frazier, 50 Bonnie Briar Circle. I wanted to ask a brief question if we found any correlation between water main leaks and where we've had salt water go over the streets. Like there's been water main breaks on on Rockland Street, both at Bonnie Briar Circle and Meadow. I'm wondering, and Downer Avenue and other ones fall in that same category. So how much, do you have any notion right now of how much we're going to have to spend on, I'd say, resiliency money to fortify water mains that are being exposed to salt water? That's the main question. The other issue that I have to comment on is that I kayak a lot. I wish that people would hold back on use more native grasses or use less water, hold back on the fertilizer, because the conditions are getting worse every year. we're starting to see green algae from the runoff from lawns, I think. That's what I think it is. So, but anyway, those are my two questions.
To answer your first question about the salt water, no, because I looked at it yesterday, and, I mean, lower down our Ave was where the real issues were with breaks. After Otis Street, we've had no breaks. We did have the one on Rockland Street, but that break on Rockland Street was an old repair that had actually rotted out. So we fixed that with new technology, so that one should be fine. The Bonnie Briar one, I was looking at, Clark, so I haven't dug into it, but that was the only one break, I believe, on Bonnie Briar.
Yeah, but it was right at the low point. That's
Yeah, it was at the
what
low
our-
point, yep. I didn't see the pipe, so I can't comment on that right now, but I will talk to them about that.
Yeah, and a meadow, there was still water piling up on the other side of Rockland Street possibly because of runoff. I don't know, but it's still some kind of problem there.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you, Clark. Any other
Thanks.
questions or comments? Mark, come on up.
Good evening. Mark Bonagorio, 10 Cliff Road. I've heard different people touch upon this. I think one of the bigger challenges we have besides aged infrastructure is just simply communication. I'm certainly not an expert on water and piping, anything like that. I assume the vast majority of people are not. But I think when we do have things like visuals for people, when we make sure we're communicating with the CAB, when people understand the tank levels, when they know about what's coming on in the future, where we were in the past, when we have timely notifications, when we have instances, okay, something's stripped and we need to have somebody come in with a specialized tool to replace it because we can't open something up with a wrench, or what we found. Those are the things that I think if you communicate to residents of the water system, they'll appreciate and understand a little bit more. It doesn't alleviate issues with pressure and brown water, but people need to understand where the money they're spending, where it's going, and where the system is moving forward. And I think we need to do a much better job of that, including for this commission's meeting. We haven't posted the meeting minutes for over a year now. We should have those up on the town website, but they're not there. I checked earlier today. So overall, I think there's multiple different ways we can do it, and whether it's through the press, whether it's through social media, whether it's through the town's website, phone notifications, to make sure that we're communicating as quickly as possible, but also with a lot of detailed information so people know what's going on. Thank you.
Mark, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so to address your question about, a lot of people opted out of the phone calls and texts, so we would wish they would at least go in and apply and register for the emails. So if you look at how many residents and how many customers you have in the systems, over 12,500, I believe our notification system's only at about 3,000 or 4,000. So people are opting out. We did get in the Facebook race. I do it very often myself, and I agree with you about, different, picture things. That's why we did this presentation. We will post this on the website after I meet with the Town of Hull Select Board to, I want to present it to them before we put it out completely publicly, but it is up there anyways, but then it will get posted on the website so people can look at it. The other thing we were talking about was when we go into these water conservation times, or when we go into some kind of ban, we're going to start developing probably a postcard that explains exactly what the ban is, so then when people get it, they can get it in the mail instead of just trying to go and find it on the website. Again, we're going to simplify that too so that it's easier to understand, but we always put it on our website too. So if you go on our website, it says what restrictions are in and what the restrictions are. And I do agree with the visual. It's much easier with the visual. When we had issue with the tank, we put on a picture on Facebook showing how the tank dropped so much over a short period of time. So I agree with you. The visuals are starting to become more and more something that we get into doing and get out to people, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I see Mark Duff has a hand up. Chief, go ahead.
Mark Duff, 37 Bradley Park Drive, a 73-year resident of the town of Hingham and a 50-year employee of the town of Hingham. 45 of that was with the Hingham Fire Department. And I've said it before and I will say it again, the purchase of the water company was one of the best moves that Hingham has ever made. 50 years from now, people are going to be very thankful that we did this. The complaints that we're hearing tonight and the issues that we're hearing tonight, I can promise you if the previous company was still in charge, the selectmen's phones would be ringing off the hook every day. And the complaints and the issues and the problems would have been twice. Their concern was the shareholders of the company, not the people that have to use the water in Hingham and Hull. Huge improvement in the way water mains are installed. I've personally seen this. Instead of digging a hole, laying a pipe in the hole and dumping the fill, rocks, everything else on it, they now bury them properly so they'll last longer. Huge improvement on the hydrant situation going on in Hingham, hydrant replacement. When I was chief, we had hydrants. We had one hydrant that was 102 years old. And the requirement, recommended standard on hydrant replacement is 50 years, and they're fastly catching up with that. Hull tank, question on the Hull tank. What's the capacity of the tank going to be?
That's a 1 million gallon tank, Chief.
Okay. Previously, it was 500,000 gallons, so
Yep.
that will be a huge improvement. I'd also like to add, I don't know whether you're aware of it, but at one point in time, for those of you who like to know, my great-grandfather owned the controlling interest of the water company when it was the Hingham Water Company. So this is something that's very dear to my heart. And there was at one time a pumping station. I'm not sure if it may not have been the first one that was located on Kilby Street. So the Hingham Water Company, as it was called then, had a pumping station on Kilby Street. And I think it could have been the first one in the system. Are you aware of those vaults that you're talking about? There's one between Main Street. There's one on Main Street between Elm and Water. Are you aware of that?
Which one? Where?
Main between Elm and Warner.
That's the one I found. That's the one I found, I believe. But I will double check that one. I'll check my list.
Sad to
But thank
say,
you.
my memory's lost because I remember when those were put in. You may want to take a couple minutes at some point in time to explain, maybe in your next presentation, do a better explanation of the high system versus the system that operates below the South School.
Yep.
I have a suggestion for the Board of Selectmen that I think, similar to a sewer commission, we should have an independent water commission. I don't know whether it would be appointed or elected, but I think the Board of Selectmen have enough on their table. It's good that the selectmen are there because they're just taking the system over or newly taking it over. But most communities, a lot of communities have a Board of Water Commissioners that operate, and they can pay more attention to what's going on within the system, report to the town. And I could go on and on and on here tonight, but I will tell you that Hingham and Hull, Partico Asset, and a few customers in Norwell are much better off with Hingham owning this system than the previous owners, of which there were many. Thank you for hearing me.
Chief, thank you very much. Excellent point about developing an independent water commission. It's in the works. Thank you very much, sir.
Actually, one more point. One of the reasons we're hearing so much about what's going on with the system, I should have said this, is because the new company is being a lot more forthcoming on telling people what's going on. Aquarian Water and Mass American Novels, they had the same issues, but they never told anybody about it because they didn't want them to know. Thank you.
Excellent point. Thank you, Chief. All right, going to take one more because we have a select board meeting at 6, but let me turn to Brenda Black. Brenda, go ahead. Name and address, please.
Brenda Black, 12 Whitcomb Avenue. Wanted to ask what your assessment is about the water ban at this point. Is it working? How many people do you think are complying with it, Mr. Tierney?
I'm going to tell you 33% of the people are complying with it. It's working. It's helping us get the tanks back to where they need to be. We are actively receiving emails and tagging doors, and starting next week, we will start finding people. We are looking at backing off on a little bit, but I don't want to give out any dates, and I don't want to make any promises, but we are going to have that discussion next week. But there is probably about 33% of the people are complying with it because we watched our tanks go down a third less.
So, and that's been enough. Okay, so that's.
Yeah, that's been enough for us to keep up. Like I said, we have the water, we just can't pull it in fast enough when everybody's watering every day. So.
I mean, I think realistically, the challenge is communicating with the rest of the residents who don't get messages from you about why this is so important. And obviously, the 2/3 that are not currently complying with the ban means they're not ready to be educated easily about what the next level restrictions would be. I just hope that sort of more thought is being put into how to get that message out, because to those of us who comply with the conservation measures and would like to continue to use soaker hose systems on our extensive gardens, hand watering has been interesting the last several weeks, and we've been counting down to July 20th, hoping for a change, but we'll see.
No problem, but we are going to a postcard system where we're going to send out postcards when this happens. That way, everybody can get it in the mail and know it's happening, so.
Okay. All
Thank
right,
you.
and providing the rationale for it, because the rationale
Yes.
is pretty straightforward, but
Yep.
people haven't heard it. Okay, appreciate it, thank you.
No problem.
Brenda, thank you very much. All right, with that, that would come to the conclusion of tonight's Board of Water Commissioners meeting. I want to thank Russ and Mike for your time and putting the plan in place. Thank everybody for your participation. And with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Liz?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. This meeting is adjourned. We will convene